Like, who would have thought you'd be going to bridge tournaments with Ewan McGregor? This is like not something.
October 2017, one kiss, one photograph, one moment that would destroy a family and expose a secret that had been building for months. Ewan McGregor thought nobody was watching when he leaned in to kiss Mary Elizabeth Winstead at that London cafe. He was wrong. The cameras captured everything, and within hours the image was everywhere. Impossible to ignore, impossible to explain away. Here's the thing though, this wasn't the beginning of the story. This was just the moment the truth finally came out. Behind that kiss was a web of lies, secret meetings, and a betrayal that ran deeper than anyone suspected. McGregor had 4 daughters, a wife who'd stood by him for 22 years, and a reputation as one of Hollywood's good guys.
I want to take a moment to just say thank you to Eve, who always stood by me for 22 years. And my 4 children.
All of that was about to crumble. His oldest daughter would call Mary Elizabeth Winstead a piece of trash online. His teenage daughter would write a heartbreaking song about seeing those photos on her birthday. His wife would be left picking up the pieces while he moved on without looking back. And through it all, McGregor said nothing, admitted nothing, let the chaos rage around him until now. Years later, he's finally talking, and what he's revealed is both brutally honest and shockingly cold. The question everyone's been asking, why did he do it? Why throw away everything for this woman? His answer will make you question everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and what people are willing to sacrifice for their own happiness.
Is it really? Oh my God. Wow, hey guys, kids.
For more than 2 decades, Ewan McGregor seemed to have it all figured out. The year was 1995, and the young Scottish actor was just beginning to make waves in Hollywood when he landed a small role in the British series Cavanagh QC. That's where he met her. Eve Mavrakis, a French production designer 5 years his senior, with dark eyes and an artistic soul that matched his own. McGregor later admitted he knew instantly that he wanted to be with her. The connection was electric, undeniable, the kind of thing people write songs about. They didn't waste time. Within months, they were married, starting a life together that seemed destined for greatness. By 1996, just 7 months after their wedding, they welcomed their first daughter, Clara. The family would grow over the years. Esther arrived in 2001, and then something remarkable happened. In 2004, while filming Long Way Round, a motorcycle documentary through Mongolia, McGregor visited a children's shelter. There, he met a 2-year-old girl named Jamyan. He couldn't get her out of his mind. 2 years later, she became part of the McGregor family through adoption. In 2011, they adopted again, bringing home baby Anouk when she was just 4 months old. To the world, they were the gold standard. McGregor gushed about his wife in interviews, talking about how there was no secret to a happy marriage except being in love with the woman you share your life with. He protected his family fiercely, even suing British tabloids when they published unauthorized photos of his children on holiday. Everything seemed rock solid, stable, built to last forever. But perfection is often just a carefully maintained illusion. By 2016, cracks were forming in the foundation, cracks that nobody on the outside could see. McGregor was spending more time away from home, diving deep into challenging roles that required him to become other people, to live other lives. And that's exactly what he was about to do. But what nobody knew was that the real danger wasn't in the characters he played, it was in the woman he was about to meet. Late 2016, the 3rd season of Fargo was gearing up for production, and Ewan McGregor had signed on for a challenging dual role, playing both brothers Ray and Emmett Stussy. The show needed a female lead, someone who could match McGregor's intensity, someone with edge and vulnerability in equal measure. Enter Mary Elizabeth Winstead. At 32, she'd already made her mark with roles in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and 10 Cloverfield Lane. She was talented, driven, and according to sources close to the production, she'd harbored a crush on McGregor since her teenage years. When she got the call that she'd be playing Nikki Swango, Ray Stussy's girlfriend and partner in crime, she must have felt like fate was finally smiling on her. But there was a complication. Actually, there were 2 complications. Ewan was married to Eve with 4 daughters at home. Mary was married too, to filmmaker Riley Stearns, her partner since she was just 18 years old. 7 years of marriage, a relationship that had defined her entire adult life. None of that seemed to matter once filming began. The chemistry between Ewan and Mary was immediate, magnetic, and dangerous. They played lovers on screen, and according to those on set, the line between performance and reality began to blur. Here's where things get really twisted. Mary Elizabeth Winstead actually went to the McGregor family home. She sat at their dinner table. She met Eve, looked her in the eyes, and broke bread with the 4 daughters whose lives she would eventually help tear apart. Sources later revealed that Eve had been told about Mary's teenage crush on Ewan, which must have made that dinner absolutely excruciating in retrospect. Can you imagine? Sitting across from the woman who'd fantasized about your husband since she was a kid, pretending everything's normal? Then came May 2017, and suddenly 2 marriages that had lasted a combined 29 years just evaporated. Mary Elizabeth Winstead posted a photo on Instagram kissing Riley Stearns on the cheek. The caption was carefully worded, almost rehearsed. She called him her best friend, said they'd decided to move on from their marriage but would stay best friends and collaborators. She ended with words that would later seem loaded with meaning. We are still ride or die, just in a different way now. The same month, Mary announced her split. Ewan McGregor and Eve Mavrakis quietly separated. No announcement, no press release, just a private decision that they desperately tried to keep under wraps. In Hollywood, though, nothing stays secret for long. 5 months passed. 5 months of Ewan and Mary seeing each other behind closed doors, building something new while the world remained completely oblivious. October 22nd, 2017 arrived, and everything went nuclear. A photographer caught them at a cafe in London. The images were absolutely damning. Ewan and Mary weren't just having coffee as friends or colleagues. They were kissing, touching, completely absorbed in each other like teenagers in love. In one photo, they're deep in conversation, faces close, intimate beyond question. In another, they're locked in a kiss that left zero room for interpretation. An eyewitness reported that after their cafe date, they sped off together on Ewan's motorcycle, Mary's arms wrapped tight around him like she belonged there. The Sun published the photos that same day, and within hours, a representative confirmed what everyone had already guessed. Ewan and Eve had been separated since May. But here's what makes this whole thing smell fishy. The timing was too perfect, too convenient, too calculated. The math was simple and absolutely brutal. Mary left her husband in May. Ewan separated from Eve in May. 5 months later, they're photographed kissing in London. The narrative wrote itself, and it wasn't pretty. According to sources close to Eve, McGregor had told his wife about his feelings for Mary back in May. He claimed, insisted really, that nothing physical had happened. He said he was being honest, coming clean before anything inappropriate occurred. Eve didn't buy it for 1 second. A source told The Sun that Eve was absolutely certain Ewan and Mary were together before he confessed his feelings. The source added that it was nearly impossible for her to believe his version of events. That dinner at the family home kept haunting everyone. Mary sitting there with Eve and the girls, knowing what she felt, knowing what Ewan felt, playing the part of the friendly co-worker. The whole situation started to look less like an unfortunate coincidence and more like something deliberate, something that had been simmering for months while 2 families remained completely in the dark. In November, just weeks after the photos surfaced, Ewan and Mary were spotted again in Los Angeles, strolling hand in hand through the streets like nothing had happened. They weren't hiding anymore, weren't pretending. They were official, public, together. The message couldn't have been clearer. Whatever damage had been done, whatever hearts had been shattered, they were moving forward, together, and everyone else could deal with it. If Ewan thought his daughters would quietly accept his new relationship, he was about to get a rude awakening. The McGregor children, especially the older ones, were about to make their feelings explosively public. Clara McGregor, his eldest at 22, was the first to strike back. On Instagram, someone posted a photo of Mary Elizabeth Winstead from a 2014 Vanity Fair party. The account caption gushed about her being the most beautiful and talented woman on earth. Clara saw it, and she was done playing nice, done being silent. Her comment was absolutely savage. Most beautiful and talented woman on earth? Oh man, y'all are delusional. The girl is a piece of trash. She added a smiley face and an X at the end, as if that somehow softened the nuclear bomb she'd just dropped. It didn't. The comment went viral within hours, spreading across social media like wildfire. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a marriage ending or a new relationship beginning. It was about children publicly eviscerating their father's new girlfriend, about a family torn apart and bleeding out in public view. But Clara wasn't the only daughter drowning in pain. Esther McGregor, just 15 years old at the time, expressed her agony in a different way. She wrote a song, and what she created was absolutely gutting. In January 2018, she posted a video of herself performing it on Instagram. The song was called "Made You a Man," and the lyrics cut right through to the bone. She sang about reading terrible things online, about seeing photos that made her sob. Then came the line that destroyed everyone who heard it. She sang about how those photos of her father with Mary Elizabeth Winstead were published on her 15th birthday. Seeing those pictures, they're making me cry. Happy birthday to me. Am I right? The pain in her voice was unmistakable, raw, real. This wasn't just a daughter upset about her parents' divorce. This was a child whose birthday, a day that should have been about celebrating her, was completely overshadowed by her father's very public betrayal plastered all over the internet. The lyrics continued, unfiltered and honest. I don't know how to forgive you, I don't know if I can. Sources close to the family revealed that all 4 daughters blamed Mary Elizabeth Winstead for destroying their family. They couldn't forgive her, couldn't even stand to look at her. Eve, for her part, was trying to handle things with dignity, but the situation was crushing her spirit. When a fan commented on her Instagram expressing support, Eve's response was heartbreaking in its simplicity and resignation. What can I do? Just 3 words, but they contained absolutely everything. The helplessness, the anguish, the resignation of a woman who'd given 22 years to a man who'd fallen in love with someone else. In January 2018, McGregor officially filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The separation date was listed as May 28, 2017, confirming what everyone already suspected about the timeline. Eve responded through the Sun, stating, "It's disappointing and upsetting, but my main concern is our 4 children are okay." She filed for sole physical custody of the 3 minor children, wanting Ewan to have only visitation rights. This wasn't an amicable split between 2 people who'd grown apart naturally. This was warfare. January 7, 2018, the 75th Golden Globe Awards. Ewan McGregor was nominated for Best Actor in a limited series for his dual role in Fargo, the very show where this entire catastrophe had started. When his name was called, he walked to the stage, probably knowing that every single word he said would be dissected, analyzed, and judged by millions. What he chose to say became one of the most cringe-worthy moments in Golden Globe history. He started safely enough, thanking the cast and crew of Fargo, keeping things professional and appropriate. Then he took what he probably thought was the high road, the classy approach. "I want to take a moment to just say thank you to Eve, who always stood by me for 22 years, and our 4 children, Clara, Esther, Jamyan, and Anouk. I love you." The audience applauded politely. It seemed gracious, respectful, a public acknowledgement of the mother of his children and the family he'd built over 2 decades. But then he kept talking, and everything went sideways. And there wouldn't have been any Ray without Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The camera captured the moment perfectly. Faces in the audience frozen, some confused, others clearly uncomfortable, a few looking downright shocked. He'd just thanked his estranged wife and his new girlfriend in the same breath, in the same speech, on live television watched by millions worldwide. It was spectacularly tone-deaf, almost impressively oblivious. When reporters asked Eve Mavrakis about the speech days later, her response was absolutely ice-cold. "No, I did not like his speech." When pressed about why, she replied with cutting simplicity, "For the same reasons you are here asking me about it." She didn't need to say more. Everyone understood perfectly. McGregor had humiliated her on a global stage, reducing 22 years of marriage and 4 children to a brief thank you before pivoting to praise the woman who'd helped blow up their family. Social media absolutely erupted. Some defended McGregor, arguing he was trying to be respectful to everyone involved. Others called him selfish, oblivious, insensitive, cruel. Think pieces were written analyzing his every word. But the people whose opinions mattered most, his daughters, weren't speaking to him at all. The Golden Globes moment became symbolic of everything wrong with how McGregor had handled the entire situation from start to finish. He wanted to have it both ways, to be the good guy who honored his ex-wife while simultaneously celebrating his new love. Instead, he'd managed to hurt everyone involved even more deeply than before. The path to reconciliation, if it was ever going to happen, seemed impossibly far away. Despite the carnage left behind, despite the broken relationships and shattered trust, Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead pressed forward with determination. They didn't hide from the public eye, didn't slow down their relationship, didn't let the massive backlash change their course one bit. In their minds, they'd found something real, something worth fighting for, and nothing else mattered more than that. By early 2018, they were completely inseparable, attending events together, traveling the world together, building a life brick by brick. In 2020, they worked together again, this time on Birds of Prey, where Mary played Huntress and Ewan took on the role of villain, Black Mask. On set, sources reported they were professional but clearly devoted to each other in every way. The relationship was deepening, becoming more serious with each passing month. June 2021 brought a game-changing moment. Mary Elizabeth Winstead gave birth to a son. They named him Laurie, and suddenly, Ewan was a father for the 5th time. But this time felt completely different. This was his first son, his first child with Mary, and a fresh beginning for both of them after all the chaos. The person who announced the birth surprised absolutely everyone watching this family drama unfold. Clara McGregor, the daughter who'd called Mary a piece of trash just 3 years earlier, posted a photo on Instagram that changed everything. She was holding her new baby brother, and her caption was warm, genuine, full of love. "Welcome to the world, little brother. Congratulations to my dad and Mary. This is the greatest gift." The shift was remarkable, almost unbelievable given where things had been. Somewhere in those 3 years, Clara had found a way to make peace with a situation that had once felt unforgivable. Maybe it was therapy working its magic. Maybe it was simply time doing what time does. Maybe it was realizing that hating Mary Elizabeth Winstead wouldn't bring her parents back together or change what had happened. Whatever the reason, she'd chosen forgiveness over bitterness, and in doing so, she'd opened the door for her father to come back into her life fully. In September 2021, McGregor won an Emmy for his portrayal of fashion designer Halston. His acceptance speech showed how dramatically things had changed since that awkward Golden Globes moment. "Mary, I love you so much. I'm gonna take this home and show it to our new little boy, Laurie," he said, his voice genuinely full of emotion. Then he addressed his daughters directly. "And to my beautiful girls who I know are watching, Clara, Esther, Jamyan, and Anouk, hello to you too." It wasn't perfect, but it was real progress. He was acknowledging both families, both parts of his complicated life, and this time it felt more genuine, less like a performance. April 2022 brought another major milestone. Ewan and Mary got married in an intimate ceremony at their Los Angeles home. Just family and close friends attended the quiet celebration. The menu was farm to table. The vibe was deliberately low-key, and for the first time in years, Ewan looked genuinely at peace with himself. They'd weathered the storm together. They'd survived the hate, the backlash, the broken relationships, and public scrutiny. Now they were husband and wife, building something new from the ashes of what came before. In 2024, they worked together again on A Gentleman in Moscow, playing romantic interests in the Paramount Plus series. Watching them on screen, their chemistry was still undeniable, the exact same chemistry that had started this whole mess back in 2016. In interviews promoting the show, they talked about using intimacy coordinators even though they were married, about maintaining professionalism on set despite their personal relationship. They seemed genuinely happy, settled, like they'd finally found solid ground beneath their feet. But happiness, as everyone knows, always comes at a cost, and that cost was still being paid. For years, Ewan McGregor stayed mostly silent about the divorce, about the affair allegations, about the damage done to his family and everyone involved. He'd make brief comments here and there in passing, but nothing substantial, nothing that really explained why he'd blown up his entire life for this relationship with Mary. The silence was deafening, frustrating for everyone watching and waiting for answers. Then came 2022, and a GQ interview that finally changed everything. McGregor was promoting a film called You Sing Loud, I Sing Louder, which he'd made with his daughter Clara. She'd written the screenplay about their relationship, about their estrangement, about her struggles with addiction and his desperate attempts to help her through it. The film was deeply personal, uncomfortably honest, and talking about it forced McGregor to confront things he'd been avoiding for years. When asked directly about the divorce and its aftermath on his family, McGregor finally let his guard drop completely. His words were simple, but absolutely crushing. "A divorce in a family is a bomb going off in everyone's life, my children's lives. The sort of healing of that is ongoing." Think about that phrase, a bomb going off. Not a difficult transition, not a challenging time, not even a painful separation. A bomb. Explosive, destructive, indiscriminate, leaving damage that takes years, maybe decades to repair properly. He admitted that even years later, the wounds were still there, still tender, still affecting everyone involved in ways big and small. But then he said something else in an earlier interview with Men's Journal, something that revealed his true feelings about the choice he'd made and whether he regretted it. When asked if the relationship with Mary Elizabeth Winstead was worth all the pain, all the destruction, all the collateral damage, his answer came immediately without hesitation. "I am better. I am happier. Not we are happier together. Not it was worth it for love. Just a simple, stark statement. I am happier." It was a startlingly selfish admission, brutally honest in its selfishness. He destroyed a 22-year marriage, put his children through absolute hell, caused his ex-wife immeasurable pain and public humiliation, and his justification for all of it? He was happier now. That was enough for him. McGregor also opened up about working with Clara on their film together, about the experience of seeing their relationship through her eyes. He talked about reading her screenplay for the first time, how nervous he'd been about what she would write, what she would reveal. "There's things that aren't accurate or are bent," he explained carefully, "but they still reflect our estrangement for a while." He admitted they'd lost her for a couple of years during her darkest period, that her struggles with substance abuse had been partly tied to the family trauma she'd experienced. "It's a horribly difficult situation to be in," he said, his voice heavy. "You're so scared of what can happen. You will do anything in the world to stop losing them. The irony was absolutely crushing to anyone paying attention. He'd been so scared of losing his daughter, yet his own choices, his own actions, had pushed her away in the first place. He'd created the very situation he feared most. The GQ interview revealed a man who understood the damage he'd caused but still firmly believed he'd made the right choice for himself. He wasn't apologizing for the affair itself. He wasn't expressing regret about falling for Mary or leaving Eve. He only seemed remorseful about how it had hurt his children, about the pain they'd endured because of his decisions. For McGregor, the ends clearly justified the means. He'd found love with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. They'd built a life together. They had a son. They were happy. The fact that it had come at such a crushing cost to others seemed secondary to his own happiness and fulfillment. Today, Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead live in Topanga Canyon, in the house they bought together back in 2019 when they were still just dating. Sources describe their life as surprisingly traditional, with Mary taking on more of a homemaker role than Eve ever did during her decades-long marriage to Ewan. She caters to his needs, creates a peaceful home environment, focuses on raising their son Laurie, who's now 4 years old and apparently thriving. It's a completely different dynamic from his first marriage, where Eve was described as more of the boss, the one running the family while Ewan went off to work and pursue his career. Some sources suggest this is exactly what McGregor wanted all along, a more conventional setup where he could be the provider and decision-maker without conflict. In October 2024, Mary gave an interview to Bustle where she talked candidly about balancing motherhood, marriage, and her acting career. Being a mom and having my career and being a wife and a friend and a daughter and all of those things, and making them all feel like they're getting enough love and attention, that's the constant work, she explained. She seemed content, fulfilled, genuinely at peace with the choices that had brought her here. The couple continues to work together professionally, most recently on projects like A Gentleman in Moscow. Their son Laurie is apparently obsessed with Baby Yoda, which makes perfect sense given his father's iconic connection to the Star Wars universe. They attend red carpets together, post occasional photos on social media, and present the image of a happy, stable, loving family to the world. Meanwhile, Eve Mavrakis has rebuilt her own life from scratch. When the divorce was finalized in August 2020, she received a substantial financial settlement. McGregor agreed to pay her over $14,000 per month in child support and nearly $36,000 monthly in spousal support. They split royalties from all his films made during their marriage, including the massively lucrative Star Wars prequels, Trainspotting, and Moulin Rouge. Eve kept their $662 million Los Angeles home and her jewelry collection. McGregor kept his collection of 30 vehicles. The financial arrangements were complex and hard-fought, but they were eventually settled. The emotional arrangements, though, those are still being negotiated, still being worked out day by day. The McGregor daughters have found their own paths forward through the wreckage. Clara, now 28, has pursued modeling and acting with success. She and her father have reconciled enough to work together on films and appear together publicly. Esther, 23, has also gotten into acting, even appearing alongside her father in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series for Disney+. Jamyan and Anouk have stayed more private, avoiding the spotlight, but they've been seen at family events, suggesting that some level of repair has occurred behind closed doors. But that word keeps coming up over and over: healing. Because even now, 7 years after those photos in London shook everything apart, the wounds haven't fully closed. McGregor himself admitted the repair work isn't finished, that it's ongoing, that it may never be completely done. There's an interesting detail that reveals how complicated things still are beneath the surface. When Ewan and Mary worked together on A Gentleman in Moscow, they used an intimacy coordinator for their love scenes despite being married. McGregor explained that it wasn't just for them, but for the crew, saying it's uncomfortable to be intimate in front of cameras, but you have to wonder if there was more to it than that. If filming romantic scenes together brought back memories of Fargo, where it all started, where lines were crossed and families were destroyed, the current reality is stark and undeniable. Ewan McGregor got exactly what he wanted. He has Mary Elizabeth Winstead as his wife, they're married, they have a son together, they work together, they've built a comfortable life. His daughters have mostly come around, though the relationships are different now, forever marked by what happened. And Eve? She's moved on too, building a life without the man she spent 22 years with, the man she trusted completely. Everyone has moved forward with their lives, but forward isn't the same as healed. Forward just means you're not standing still anymore. So what did Ewan McGregor finally reveal about why he destroyed his marriage for Mary Elizabeth Winstead? The answer is both frustratingly simple and maddeningly complicated. He was happier, that's it. That's the big revelation everyone was waiting for. He met someone who made him feel something he wasn't feeling at home anymore, and he chose that feeling over absolutely everything else in his life. He chose it over 22 years of marriage and shared history. He chose it over his 4 daughters' stability and sense of security. He chose it over his wife's trust and his family's integrity. He chose it over the image he'd built, the values he'd claimed to hold. Was it love? Almost certainly. Was it worth it? That depends entirely on who you ask. For McGregor, the answer seems to be an unqualified yes. He got his happiness, his fresh start, his new family, his second chance at romance. For his daughters, especially in those brutal early years, the answer was a resounding, painful no. For Eve, who gave him half her life and bore the public humiliation of being left for a younger woman, the answer is likely still no, even with time and distance. What's striking about McGregor's admissions over the years isn't what he said, but what he conspicuously didn't say. He never apologized for the affair or how it started. He never expressed real regret about falling for Mary while still married. He only acknowledged that it hurt people, that it was destructive, that repair takes time, but he never once suggested he would make a different choice if he could somehow do it all over again, with the knowledge of the pain it would cause. This story raises uncomfortable questions about love, loyalty, happiness, and the price we're willing to make others pay for our own fulfillment. When does following your heart become pure selfishness? When does starting over become running away from responsibility? When does pursuing personal happiness become inflicting pain on those who love you most? McGregor's answer seems to be that personal happiness justifies the collateral damage, that being true to yourself matters more than the wreckage left behind. He's better now, he's happier, and for him, that's reason enough. But here's what he keeps saying, what he keeps coming back to. The healing is ongoing. Ongoing means unfinished, incomplete, still in progress. It means that 7 years later the wounds are still there, still visible beneath the surface, the pain still present, even if it's quieter now. Maybe that's the real revelation buried in all of this, that some explosions once detonated never stop causing damage. The shock waves just echo quieter over time, but they never fully disappear. Ewan McGregor destroyed his marriage for Mary Elizabeth Winstead because he believed his happiness was worth more than his family's pain. Whether that makes him honest or selfish, romantic or reckless, a man following his heart, or just another Hollywood cliché, is something everyone has to decide for themselves based on their own values and experiences. One thing is absolutely certain though, the healing, just like he said, is still ongoing, and it may be ongoing for a very, very long time, maybe forever.